Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable of the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at everyone everywhere. No matter where you're from, what you're doing, what your faith is, what you think, we are all inclusive here. And I am Justin B., a grateful host of this program and steward of the RICO 12 family of recovery resources and an addict. I'm grateful to be living in the one day at a time miracle of recovery as I trudge this path of happy, this road of happy destiny. And I'm joined today around this virtual roundtable by Nikki M. and David G. And we're excited to continue this swim through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Nikki, why don't you jump in and just say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Nikki M, and I'm a grateful member, and I have learned the full meaning of the promise that's on page 153 of our magic book of love thy neighbor as thyself. I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Awesome to have you here. David, introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin, for your service. Good to see you as well. As always, Nikki. I'm David G. from Oklahoma. I'm an alcoholic addict of many sorts. Been in recovery for close to 30 years. Really, really, really grateful to be at the round table on the Big Book study today. Thank you.
And we're grateful to have you here too, David. Today, we're going to continue our reading in the chapter More About Alcoholism from the Big Book of Alcoholics. Grab your fourth edition, turn to page 39. We're going to start in the last sentence of paragraph, the first full paragraph of that page on page 39, jumping from the Jaywalker and explanation of the Jaywalker that we've covered in the last couple of episodes and jumping into Fred's story. And Fred's story is, well, these are all powerful, but this is a powerful story, and we're going to jump into that and read that today. So grab a pen, a highlighter, a piece of paper, whatever you're doing to take notes and mark this up so that you can put it into action and not just talk about it or listen about it. Put it into action. All right, here we go. Let us take another illustration. Fred is partner in a well-known accounting firm. His income is good. He has a fine home, is happily married, and the father of promising children of college age. He has so attractive a personality that he makes friends with everyone. If ever there was a successful businessman, it is Fred. To all appearance, he is a stable, well-balanced individual. Yet, he is alcoholic. We first saw Fred about a year ago in a hospital where he had gone to recover from a bad case of jitters. It was his first experience of this kind, and he was much ashamed of it. Far from admitting he was an alcoholic, he told himself he came to the hospital to rest his nerves. The doctor intimated strongly that he might be worse than he realized. For a few days he was depressed about his condition. He made up his mind to quit drinking altogether. It never occurred to him that perhaps he could not do so, in spite of his character and standing. Fred would not believe himself an alcoholic, much less accept a spiritual remedy for his problem. We told him what we knew about alcoholism. He was interested and conceded that he had some of the symptoms, but he was a long way from admitting that he could do nothing about it himself. He was positive that this humiliating experience, plus the knowledge he had acquired, would keep him sober the rest of his life. Self-knowledge would fix it. We heard no more of Fred for a while. One day we were told that he was back at the hospital. This time he was quite shaky. He soon indicated he was anxious to see us. The story he told us is most instructive, for here was a chap absolutely convinced he had to stop drinking, who had no excuse for drinking, who exhibited splendid judgment and determination in all his other concerns, yet was flat on his back nevertheless. Let him tell you about it. I was much impressed with what you fellows said about alcoholism, and I frankly did not believe it would be possible for me to drink again. I rather appreciated your ideas about the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink, but I was confident it could not happen to me after what I had learned. I reasoned I was not so far advanced as most of you fellows, that I had been usually successful in licking my other personal problems, and that I would therefore be successful where you men failed. I felt I had every right to be self-confident, that it would be only a matter of exercising my willpower and keeping on guard. In this frame of mind, I went about my business, and for a time all was well. I had no trouble refusing drinks and began to wonder if I had not been making too hard work of a simple matter. One day I went to Washington to present some accounting evidence to a government bureau. I had been out of town before during this particular dry spell, so there was nothing new about that. Physically, I felt fine. Neither did I have any pressing problems or worries. My business came off well. I was pleased and knew my partners would be too. It was the end of a perfect day, not a cloud on the horizon. Now we're going to stop there, and this is right in the middle of the story and where things change. But I want to talk about the concepts of self-knowledge, of, you know, well, what brought him back to the hospital bed the second time. We'll really dig into that next episode that we do. But let's lead up to that here. So, um, Nikki, talk to us a little bit about your take, what you are pulling out of this reading today.
Well, I'm laughing and I'm smiling because it's like comedy hour here. If you read it and you've been here long enough, it's a tragic story. But when you're here and your sponsors like us, I have to laugh. This is comedy because I hear this so much from a lot of people. I mean, not only I'm Fred, but a lot of my sponsees are Fred, aren't they? It's like my line out on the top paragraph is like great gal, because Fred's a great guy. That's me. I was, I mean, going all the way back, I'm always like employee of the month. I'm always, go get him. I'm that girl. And to all appearances, I'm stable and a well-balanced individual. Because if you looked at the outside, wow, my ducks are in a row. My life is really great, but I am suffering from the disease of alcoholism, and it's all, it's awful. Depressed. Yeah, I'm self-obsessed. And that bottom part on page 39 is like this progressive illness. And again, it's beyond human aid, because not Fred, Nikki would not believe myself the problem. See, I'm not the alcoholic. It was all the alcoholics in my life, because I came in through the rooms through Al-Anon to save the alcoholics in my life. So it's all their problems. How I'm not the problem, it's them. And a spiritual remedy. Don't you know I know everything? I'm Nikki M. I've got a degree from the School of Hard Knocks for everything, and I'm master of none. And so on the next page, it's the same thing. It's like you said about this knowledge, this self-knowledge. I can tell you, I have a real estate license, a radiograph license. I have a burlesque entertainment license. I have every license you can get without having to actually go get a PhD from university. I have. And ask me if I've even worked one day doing everything. I've got these accolades because it's self-knowledge. It won't do it. It won't do me all. I won't. It doesn't work, and I have no excuses for the way I'm acting. I have a big book of excuses, though. It's everyone else's fault. I have the big book of excuses, and it doesn't fit into even my 4-bedroom house right now because it's so big, because it's like everything is normal in my life except this part, and at that, in the grip of my progressive illness, it manifested in finances and romance. Like I could not manage personal relationships with anyone, and especially lovers. I'll kill you at the end if you don't want to be with me. And money. I threw out, what's your drug of choice? Oh, it's your 18th birthday, daughter. I'll miss it because I got to work. She only turns 18 once. Like this is how it manifests in me. Really, really cunning and subtle insanity. It's subtle insanity, and I can't. All the self-confidence. That's why I started laughing. Exercising my willpower. If you're here long enough, you have zero willpower. It's comedy hour, and I love that. For all was well for a time, and then things got worse. So then I needed to take a new person hostage. I need a son, because I already have a daughter. She's 12, and I need a son, and I need a husband. So I'll just grab any stranger off the street, make a baby, and then turn around a year later and throw them both out going, you ruined my life. Anybody, does that sound familiar to you out there? Codependents, Al-Anons, sex and love addicts. So, and there it is. It's the end of a perfect day. It's the end of a perfect decade, not a cloud on the horizon for Nikki. And then I will throw everything out. I will not learn from my daughter, and those 12 years I have to go and get a whole new experience with a son this time, and just throw my life into the ground again. And then we'll see how that turns out in the next part of the Nikki episode.
Thanks, Nikki, for sharing that. Good insights. David, how about you? As we read through that, what are some of the things that you'd like to point out to us?
Well, I see myself all the way through here, especially with his thinking, the way that he believed. Bottom part of that paragraph on 39 that you read said he would not believe himself an alcoholic, and that's step one. If I don't believe I'm an alcoholic, then I sure as hell don't need a spiritual remedy for that problem, which is step two. So we see that he wouldn't believe, key word. And I think that I suffered from that even after being in the rooms for a long time. I mean, I knew that I had a problem or drinking was causing all these problems, but I didn't really believe I was an alcoholic of sorts. And, I come to believe that after being in hell, I think I became more of an alcoholic sitting in the room sober than I ever did out there drinking, because untreated alcoholism is a bitch and it'll kill you inside the rooms, dead. Running around telling all these stories, standing at the podium, sponsoring all these people, going through all this work, doing this stuff. And hell, if you'd have looked at my personal life, you'd have ran like hell for me, guarantee. And so I like to look at the things that set him up, because he goes to the hospital. Hell, I was in and out of hospitals and jails for most of my life. But in the middle of the page on 40, we begin to see why he doesn't believe he's an alcoholic. It's not just because he think, well, shit, I can't relate to you guys. I really don't believe that. No, I like to look at what set him up, because this is what set me up. Let him tell you about it. Yeah, I was much impressed with what you fellas said about alcoholism. And I frankly, key three words, did not believe it would be possible for me to drink again. Anytime I believe that, even after being in these rooms for a long time, I'm sitting here today with pretty good recovery behind me. And I can tell you, if that belief comes into my mind right there that I'll never act out or drink again, I'm doomed to failure, because that is damn sure possible. Sit in here, don't work steps 10 and 11 and fall back on your spiritual life and watch what happens. That belief will come back and it will become a reality pretty damn quick, or it has for me. He said, I rather appreciated your key word here, ideas about the subtle insanity that precedes the first drink, but I was confident, yeah, there it is, that it would not happen to me after what I learned. See, he's going on self-knowledge, and I did that for years inside the rooms. He said, I reasoned, and, that word just means justification. I was not so far advanced as most of you fellas. As you come on down a little bit, he says, I felt. There it is again. You see how these ideas, concepts, beliefs, feelings, see how they're setting him up? I felt I had every right to be self-confident. So did I in AA. So did I in all the conferences that I was at. I had every right to be self-confident. God is on my side now, but I'm relying on my own reasoning, my own thinking to get me through life. I jump out of the bed in the morning, say a really quick prayer, and then I run off with my day. I don't think about God again. It's all about me and what I'm doing in life. So he says it's only, a matter of exercising my willpower and keeping on guard. And whenever you get to the top of 41 there, he says, I'd been out of town before during this particular dry spell, so there's nothing sober there or recovery. He's just sober. He's dry. That's how I was for years. So he said there's nothing new about that physically. And I like to look at these two words, I felt. I felt fine. It doesn't mean he was fine, but he felt fine, because he damn sure wasn't fine. And we're going to see what happens to him as a result of that belief is the same thing that happened to me after all those years. I felt fine. I really didn't have any pressing problems or worries. One day I walked into a meeting. There was a newcomer there. She caught my eye. I began to look at her. The thought came, she looks pretty good. She's nice. Man, maybe I could help her. That's a big one for me right there. I got to stay away from that thought, that belief. Maybe I could help her. So after the meeting, I give her a book. I introduce myself. I need to go check, see if she's on Facebook. She could be a friend of my daughter's. They're about the same age. They're in their 30s. Yeah, okay. See how these thoughts are setting me up. I think I need to go do this. So I look her up on Facebook. I friend her. And as soon as someone would accept a friend request back in those days, I would automatically go to Messenger and begin to bait them. And that's what I did. And she took the bait. And when she did, I just like Fred, I was pleased, and I knew everybody, I knew my partners would be too. But like he says here, it was the end of a perfect day, not a cloud on the horizon. And it was in that moment. But let me tell you, that moment changed quick. And that became a living reality of hell. I was exposed for the first time in all of those years. That got back into the group. The woman that sponsored her went to the district in Oklahoma City. They reported me for bad behavior in Alcoholics Anonymous. Of course, they're not police. They can't come arrest me. But what they do is they begin to put the word out. Watch for this guy. He's a conference speaker. He's a big book study guy. He takes these studies all over the place. Watch for this guy. Watch for this guy. And I tell you, man, and my wife ended up finding out, and that led to what I thought was complete disaster. I mean, I hit a bottom unlike any that I'd ever hit in all the years that I've been in the room. But what happened as a result of that, I just want to share quickly on this, was the most beautiful thing that could have ever happened, because God intervened. He picked me up out of that darkness. He set me on the right path. He put me with another man who had been through this process in the Big Book. And I've been studying and sharing this way of life ever since. Because of Zoom and what happened with the pandemic, I've been able to share this message all over the world now. People in Asia, people in the United Kingdom, people all over Africa, Iraq. We're going into Egypt with it now, Southeast Asia. People are recovering by this method because I've sponsored those guys. They're sponsoring other guys who are sponsoring other guys. I don't care what it looks like he did here. God is bigger than any of this. So it may not have been a cloud on the horizon that day, but it most definitely is today. So, I just need to really look at what sets me up, the things, and I need to get with a sponsor that's honest. Trust me, I got one. He's a badass when it comes to that. And so the one thing that he continually convinces me about: hold secrets from your wife, you hold secrets from God. You can look at your relationship with God by the relationship you have with your partner. And he's finally convinced me of that. So really grateful, guys. We get to recover here. I know this all sounds doom and gloom, but the upside of this is coming. I trust you. Fred gets sober. We get sober. We get to recover. Fred recovered. And by the way, his name isn't Fred, it's Harry. I don't know what his last name is. I could never find it, but his name is Harry. Imagine that, Harry. Anyway, thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, David. I've got a question for each of you here that I've written down, and I look forward to hearing your takes on it. Nikki, that big book of excuses that you brought up there, I want you to dive a little bit more into that. Share a little bit more about what the big book of excuses is and how that, you said it's bigger than what can fit in your house. Let's discuss that a little bit.
All right, let's discuss it. And thank you, David. I love that. I love a little tidbit. Harry, not Fred. Yeah, there's an excuse. I can't use my real name. People might know, there's all these excuses for everything. And what does it look like? Here it is. And let's just look at this story here. It's like, there was a chap absolutely convinced he had to stop. Okay. He has no excuses for drinking. Well, really, there are a million excuses, but we're not honest with self. Right? See, I can't differentiate the true from the false. I'm driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion. So I have no excuse for what I'm doing, but I have a lot of secret excuses that I'm just not willing to say. Right? Like, well, I was raped as a child, or whatever excuses your sponsees come with, or you come with. I didn't know my dad. I didn't know. I had whatever. My skin's black, not white. I'm yellow. I'm purple. Whatever it is, these excuses or these justifications, rationalizations. There's this speaker, Bob D from Vegas, and he says, if you have to justify, rationalize, or explain anything, know you are wrong, because you never have to justify, rationalize, or explain what is right. So these big book of excuses, like my son will have all these excuses. It's like, I don't really care. Yes or no. That's how I sponsor also. Yes or no. Sometimes you may need an explanation for things, but rarely. It's like, it's here. It's page 53. God is everything or God is nothing. What is your choice to be? It's really black or white. There's no excuses for this. It's because if you have room for any excuse, you'll be in relapse. You'll feel fine for a minute, and then there's an excuse. Well, I have a headache, so I need to take that. And the next thing you know, you're popping Oxycontin and you're a drug addict. Or I have an excuse. I just need to call my ex about, that t-shirt I left over 8 years ago and see where it is. Okay, like no. Or an excuse like David just said, like, I better check on this on Facebook. I better check at this. You don't have, it's black and white. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that's God's job. What's your job, Nikki? Your job is to be helpful. Black and white. Is it helpful? Yes or no? The book talks about it on page, I think it's page 101. Your motives. Do you have a good reason for being there? Check your motives. Yes or no? So if you're out there with the big book of excuses, is that I can't do this, this won't, whatever your excuse is, it's all lies, because this is black or white. God is everything or God is nothing. You have your big book of answers, or you have your big book of justification, rationalization, and excuses. And no one wants to do that. We're all grown adults here. This isn't for the faint of heart, this program. So I'm not, as I say all the time, I'm not into book burning, but I'll burn your big book of excuses with you any day.
All right, Nikki, thank you for sharing that. David, when you were talking about your experience in the first, couple of decades in the rooms, and you said, "Hey, God is on my side." I'll say a quick prayer and go throughout my day. God is on my side. That was your thoughts. I'm going to put a couple words in your mouth here, and you let me know if this is accurate. Now I think that you would say that you are on God's side, or at least you are trying to be on God's side all the time. Talk to us a little bit about the difference between God is on my side and I'm striving to be on God's side.
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. On page 53, it talks about, God is either everything or else he is nothing. Either is or isn't. What's our choice to be? And in those days, I would have told you I choose God. And it was a one and done. But today I see that as a daily choice. That's not just a one and done. I get to make that choice every day. He either is or he isn't. He's everything or he's nothing. And today I choose that every day. That's the difference. The difference is I have a personal relationship with this power today. What has changed is my thoughts and my beliefs about this power. It had to change about everything. So why would it not have to change about this power? I don't see it as something that, I need to go through the ritual of prayer and run on about my day and come back to him in the evening and just say a quick prayer. My thoughts are pretty well centered and reliance upon that power today. It just is. And so, I really, there were times in those decades that I would feel really the closeness of the Creator. Anytime that I would go back through the steps again, I would feel that nearness. But it's like the book says on page 46, it was fleeting and it was soon lost, because self would always show back up with an idea that, hey, we needed to go help this person. We need to grab 2 or 3 more sponsees. We need to make more meetings. We need to anything but to get away from the book and to get away from the power of prayer and the things that we do. After that beating that I took in 2019, I really, really was able to find a way to surrender to this power and live in conscious connection with it most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time I had. I went through a period through these 5 years, where I was really depressed and beat up for a little while because of some actions I'd taken that I knew better than to do. But, once again, God shows up, and, forgiveness through my wife has been so big. It's been so huge here. And it just continues to amaze me because, I look at that and I think, as bad as I have hurt her through the years, how she continually comes back. I read the Bible some, and I read the story of Hosea, and that's exactly what happened to him. He loved his wife, but she was a prostitute. He'd take her back, she'd run off. He'd take her back, she'd run off. And in the end, they hold an auction, and hell, he outbids everybody and ends up getting her back. That's a story of what God does to us. That was manifested in a reality to me through my wife. And so when I look at that today, I see God in you. I see God in Nikki. I see God in her. I see God in the people in the rooms, and the people that are struggling, that are suffering. I see God in them. I just see that their reliance up on something other than the power, and their experiences manifesting as not good in addiction or whatever it is. So I guess to answer the question, I would just say that experience has taught me. I used to think I don't have enough time to meditate in the mornings. I don't have enough time to sit down and do nightly review at night. I don't have enough time to watch these thoughts all day long. But I can tell you from my experiences today, I don't have time not to do that, because if I don't, then I'm headed back to a bad place. And I'm going to lose conscious contact with this power. And for me, that's deadly. It's just deadly. So really, really grateful to be here today. Thank you guys, both of you.
Thank you, David. And that relating to the story of Hosea from the Old Testament, man, that's I've never thought of it that way. And honestly, I don't know that story very well, but as you related it, I was like, holy cow, I am that wife that does that. I am that person. I just run away and am taken back, run away and am taken back. And in the end, I trust that my God will outbid everybody else for me as I choose to do that. Anyways, thank you for that. How about any let's do takeaways now. Nikki, what was one of your biggest takeaways from our reading and conversation today?
Well, I need to watch Hosea because I love to watch Christ-filled YouTube movies. That's another thing I like to do. So I'm going to do that. But the takeaway from our book today is in this frame of mind. See, what is your frame of mind today, everybody? Is your frame of mind, is your thought life, is your frame of mind on the power of God and what God will and can do if you seek it? So really that's because my frame of mind has been, I'm going to get those neighbors. Where's the building inspector? How could they do this to me? But now, after being here at the table with you guys, realizing my frame of mind needs to be, how can I serve my neighbors, love each other as myself, and find time to watch that movie today. Thank you. I love you guys. I'm in a good mood.
Thanks, Nikki. Thank you for bringing that and that energy and that spunk to our roundtable. David, what's a takeaway you have from this conversation?
Well, there's just so much. You guys are awesome. I love sharing and hearing your experience, strength, and hope. And I guess at the bottom, there toward the middle of that paragraph on page 39, he told himself he came to the hospital to rest his nerves. I like to zone in on those two words, told himself, because I'm not so sure he told himself, but I'm pretty sure that self told him some things. And, it took me a long time to be able to know that, hey, hell, I can do that with these words. I can turn them around, look at them, and make them fit my experience. So I thought I'd told myself, that I didn't need God, or I could recover on my own, or I just needed to go to meetings and not drink. But I see now that it was self that was telling me those things. And I have to and have learned the difference between the two voices. So anytime that I sponsor a guy, we look pretty close at the voice. Who is telling you this? What is it? Why is it you're believing this? I have guys share 10 steps with me all the time, but one of my biggest questions is why? Why do you think that way? Why are you feeling that way? And that's one they can't answer. So, as we dig deeper into it, we recover emotion. We have emotional recovery here, and that's the greatest thing that we could ever hope for. So I'm truly grateful for the process and grateful to be able to share it on the roundtable. Thank you, Justin, for making that possible. And Nikki, thank you always for coming and sharing experience, strength, and hope. I'm looking forward to some further workshops with you and a lot more that we can do together to help others. So thank you, guys.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you. My takeaway is in the last paragraph of our reading. Physically, I felt fine. And not that I shouldn't be looking to feel good and I shouldn't experience feeling good in my recovery. But when self is telling me I feel fine, you feel fine, I need to be aware of that because, well, if not a cloud is on the horizon and I'm just skipping through the tulips and not growing, I'm not fine. I'm going to get in trouble pretty quick. So, those are some great takeaways, some great conversation. Next time we come together, we'll continue this Fred's story, Harry's story, as we learned today. but Fred's story in this, and this is good stuff, guys. Keep coming back, because this, as we are diving into really the problem, really what is the problem? It's not alcohol, it's not sex, it's not drugs. That's the small s solution. The problem is self, and I'm really loving how we're learning more about self in this. So keep coming back. Let's keep learning, and let's keep practicing what we're learning, putting it into action, because it's not going to do anyone any good if we don't do that. Work it. You are worth it.